Hi, everyone, and welcome. Also from my side, we are today in beautiful Prague, and I couldn't wait to be there with you. So as said, my name is Pia, and I work as a QA consultant and coach for Zülke in Switzerland in Zurich. I'm here today, yes, because Marcel invited me. That's one reason, and I think it's a very good one. But even more, I'm here because I really like to share my knowledge and my experiences. So I brought for you today my most important learnings of one of my past projects. And I will also share the mistakes we've made. So hopefully you don't need to repeat them again. And as much as I like to share my experience, I also like to exchange knowledge and experience. So I'm already very keen to hear your thoughts and your questions and your feedback. And I do my very best so that we will have time after my presentation, and I'm really looking forward to that exchange with you. And now, let's have a look at the story that I'd like to share with you today. I joined the project in February 2019, shortly after I joined Zülke. So it was my very first project for my new employer. So you can imagine, I was quite excited to get started. One of my development colleagues called me in due to quality issues in that project. At that time, I didn't know that this guy, his name is Andy, would become my strongest ally and actually my partner in crime. It was at the private bank in Zurich. Yes, I know it's kind of a cliche, but if you come to Zurich and look for a job, chances are pretty high that you end up in a bank. So it was at that private bank, and the application the team was developing was an internal one, mainly for relationship managers and investment advisors. And what they did with the application was pretty simple. They advised their clients, they managed their client books, and they did actual trading for them. The application contained various components or contexts. So of course, there was a front-end, back-end, data services, and a whole bunch of interfaces with surrounding systems. At the beginning, the team consisted of around about 60 people from various disciplines. And it grew to around about 80 people in 2.5, 3 years. Most of the team members were developers, and development was organized in agile teams. And when I joined, it was a bit funny. You know, I've been called in due to quality issues, right? And I came there, and then there was no official description or name for my role or my position. I just been told, you should focus on the quality issues on the development side, and please, don't mess with the test team. The test team? Yeah, the test team. There was a separate test team. And as they were separate, of course, they did not sit in the same big room office as the team, but in a different room across the hallway. And that felt really strange to me, especially because the project claimed to be organized in an agile way. And I very quickly found out that this working in agile ways was only valid for the development teams. So the official testing part still followed good old waterfall. So what was the result? Feedback on product quality threw back far too late, very slow, and it was all pretty cumbersome. And there I came with my brilliant solution. Testers into the teams right now. And although maybe you or maybe some of you might agree and say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, at that point in time, in that project, it only met with very little joy, but with really lots of skepticism and sometimes even really destructive behavior. And then I learned, and I wasn't aware of that before, that there had already been attempts in the past to have testers in the teams. But those folks, they turned out to be nagging and criticizing and even sometimes blocking their teammates. So guess what? They got dismissed pretty quickly again from the teams. But I thought, okay, I mean, it can't be that just because some people made some bad experience in the past with some other people that I let down my idea that easily. It was too obvious for me. It was too obvious that this change in team composition, it could change everything, and it could change it for the better. I truly believe every single one brings his or her very specific and own skills to the table. And that's exactly the point. So I told them, come on, folks, we have to give it another try. But this time, let's look for, a good fit, a good match, that we have the right testers for the right team. So, and still then, they were like, okay, yeah, why not? But they still challenged my idea. But I was prepared. I came up with some nice facts and figures on how to measure the success of having testers in the teams. So there were things like, we will find the bugs at the earlier stages, where it's much, much cheaper to fix them, right? So we will have less production incidents, we will reduce our overall product risk, we will have happier users, we will have better test coverage and better test cases. And they liked that. So with that, I got not only project management on client side to approve my idea, I also got others like product owners and developers to be interested in it. So they were open for it and they wanted to give it a try. So that was pretty cool. And then finally, the official go was given. I had the green light. So I grabbed my buddy, Andy, who called me in, and I said, come on, let's go to the testers. Let's see who's the first one willing to join a team. Yeah, you know what comes. Well, they were not as excited as we were. Not at all. And yeah, some might now say, okay, but that could have been obvious. It wasn't obvious to me at that point, because the testers, only very, very few of them had experienced what happened in the past by themselves. So most of them only heard about it, but that was enough. So they were not willing to give it a try. So we were like, okay, well, we let them stay where they are, at least for the time being. Maybe when they see how that new role works, let's see, after some time, maybe they change their minds. And maybe we need them to keep things running. Could be. So we started again to look for testers to join the team, but this time we looked for externals. And those of you who ever did recruiting themselves, they will know how super hard it can be to find the right person for a specific role or position. It felt like ages that I spent with scanning applications and reading CVs over and over again. But finally, after some time, we were lucky, and we found at least the first 2 testers, so we could get started with the first 2 teams. Me and my friend, we always thought that for agile teams, it's not a big deal to organize themselves. Shouldn't be. That's what we thought. Even more, we thought our teams in our project, there are so many senior people, they are so mature, they will find their ways easily. What a wrong assumption. I tell you what happened when the testers joined. The most mature teams, they were lost, completely lost. And I got approached with so many questions. Like, so, yeah, cool, so what to do now with the testers and what their job should be and their responsibilities. And by the way, how should we collaborate with each other? And I could hardly understand the issue. And to be very honest with you, I was also kind of upset with the testers, because I thought at least they would know their job and they would be capable to define their role in the team themselves. But again, a very wrong assumption. So I had to spend quite some time with defining guidelines and rules with the testers and their teams, how they should collaborate with each other. And that got me quite overloaded. And I was so overloaded and so busy with keeping the idea, with keeping my dream alive, that I did not realize not everybody was fully committed. Not everybody shared the same vision. In autumn 2019, surprisingly, our loudest critic, that was the test manager, and he decided to leave the project. From one day to the other, he got offered another one, which he liked more. And I was like, yes, this is it. Now it's our turn. Now it's time to change the world. Not. I'll tell you what happened. So me and my friend, we were already, we spent already quite some time in thinking about this, how this new organization could work with the embedded testers and how collaboration will look like in the teams, but also across the teams. So we had already kind of a plan in our minds. So while we conducted a workshop with the testers, we made a mistake. We missed to actually listen to them. We missed to listen to their needs and to their sometimes even unspoken fears. So if you ever come to a similar situation, remember my words, don't forget the people. Because if you do forget, I can guarantee you, it will fire back on you. And it fired back on us pretty hardly. So in the end, there were really two people started really to betray and to block us behind our backs. So not a very nice situation. I can't really recommend that. And on top of that, to make things even worse, we've all been through that. COVID hit the world. And there was this huge uncertainty there, basically from one moment to the other, right? And all of us got sent to home office, and you had no more direct connection with your teammates. And a result of this crisis was also a huge budget cut in the bank where our project was. And with that budget cut, my role got cut. That was the point where I was really like, okay, that was it. Time to give up. Not for me. So I changed my approach. And I thought, okay, fine. If my overarching role will not be there in the future, then why not going into a team myself? And instead of telling them how that new embedded role should work, I will show them in everyday life how it works. Looking back, that was the best decision I could take. For the project, but even more for myself. So shortly after, I found myself in the only team without any front-end components. And the funny thing is, until then, my testing career was basically on the graphical user interface. So I was a front-end tester. I was pretty good in that, but yeah, if you're in a team without front-end, might be challenging. And it was, but it turned out to be a really good thing. So the fact that I could not test independently, especially in the early stages, forced the whole team to work more closely together and to try out new things and new approaches. And I very quickly found out or realized that I could support my new team much more with my experience in smart test design, with reviewing things, with teaching them testing techniques, asking critical questions. I could support them more with those things instead of doing actual test execution. So as we as a team experienced that huge value of interdisciplinary teamwork and pair work, we thought, why not taking it a step further? So we decided to introduce behavior-driven development, or BDD, also known as specification by example. And BDD brought us, first of all, it brought us a huge boost and a common language. And that common language was Gherkin. So pretty simple syntax. Given an initial condition, when a specific action occurs, then a specific result is expected. So that simple thing made the whole team understand the requirements and the related test scenarios more clearly than ever before. So independent of our disciplines, we had that full understanding. And another cool thing was those test scenarios we could use on basically every test level. So already starting from the unit test level onwards. And for me as embedded tester, that was great because I always knew what my development colleagues had already implemented on the lower test levels. And that knowledge, that transparency enabled me to reduce my manual test cases by 60%. 60%, I mean, that was huge. That was just awesome. It freed up so much of my resources. So for the first time in my career, I could really contribute with my skills from the very beginning. And I could drive built-in quality. And finally, I had the time to really do exploratory testing. And it was really cool. I enjoyed it. It's much fun. But please note, behavior-driven development does not replace any standard testing. So when you think about using behavior-driven development, always think about where and on which test level it really makes sense, and where, let's say, a standard unit test might be the better option. So in my team, no matter whether we had test scenarios following Gherkin syntax or any other testing in place, we always had this very close and immediate collaboration. And all of us had this quality mindset in us. So we always wanted to improve, to get better, so we constantly reflected on ourselves, and we also challenged the approaches we were following, the processes, the tools, and when we found out that this or that is not valuable for us anymore, we also threw things away. And that, in combination with the smart usage of automation and pipelines, that made us really successful and pretty fast. So only after a few months, my team was the role model for interdisciplinary teamwork and for quality assurance in the project. And it happened what I was hoping for. The testers from the test team, they got more interested in that new role because they saw, that looks like fun. And so it was cool that we didn't find enough externals at the beginning. So we still had teams without embedded testers, so the interested ones could join a team too. In the meantime, the bank decided to transform the whole organization towards SAFe, so Scaled Agile Framework. And that was, on one hand, that was super cool for us because it fully supported our approach of having testers in the teams and of building in quality. But on the other hand, it brought up the question, so what to do now with the testers outside of the teams? And we still had some of those for a good reason, but still the question came up. And in that regard, I urge you to, please, do not follow blindly what the framework says. No poster, no template can ever map all the specifics of your organization, of your team, of your project. So for us, everyone found their place in the new organization. And we did not kick out anybody just because, for instance, there is no test manager on the framework's poster. So what? So there are many cool approaches and frameworks out there. What I want you to remember is just take what really makes sense for your organization, and what doesn't make sense, just leave it out. So as said, for us, everyone found their place. And we lived happily ever after. I would love to say yes. Well, don't forget the time frame such a transition takes. So in the end, it turned out to be good for us that the testers from the testing were not excited about my idea in the first place, because it was really like we thought we needed them to stay where they are. We needed them to keep things running while transforming the teams. So the first 2 ones and then another one, and so on and so forth. It didn't take long, and my team and my project was kind of a poster child beyond project boundaries. So the whole bank, people heard about us, and they talked about us, and they approached us and asked about our secret. And some might say now, it was behavior-driven development or automation. Well, that all helped, yes, but it always takes the right people, the right mix of people with the right skills, and even more important, the willingness of every single one to pull together, especially when things are not going so well. So when transforming, the 3 things to keep in mind are: change needs supporters. You need strong allies. You need a partner in crime. I could not have achieved what I have achieved without my ally, without my awesome teammates. So change is a team effort. People ask for guidance. Also the senior ones, also the mature ones. So be prepared and have some guidelines, some guardrails, some templates ready to support them. But don't forget to leave room for individual implementation and always provide supportive culture and structure. Change doesn't happen overnight. So focus on your big goal, and time is on your side. Said that, I hope you like my story about how the transformation from waterfall testing to agile quality assurance can look like, and I hope to see you all at the other side of the waterfall. Thank you. Oh, wow. Cool.
Yes.
Thank you. The next plan for them. Okay, thank you. Awesome presentation. Yes, thank you. What's your next plans for the team? Do they know what to do as agile developers? Next plans. Do I have an echo? Next plans. Well, I think we could automate more smart. Because for me, till we have still too many manual testing in place, which I would just delete, and others just want to automate that thing, so we can improve there. So this is definitely on the list. Do they know what to do as agile developers? Yeah, we are pretty lucky, I have to say. Developers in that project are very, very open, motivated, interested to learn things maybe outside of their discipline, not only QA and testing stuff, also they're interested in business analysis, for example. So I would say yes, let's say 90% of them know what to do, and the rest they will learn. We'll show them. How long did the transformation take? Long. I'm not the most patient person, so the patience is not my strong suit, I have to say. But yeah, just give the people enough time. It's, for example, for the testers, it was a huge change in their role. What they did for years and decades, it changed completely. So it takes time to get familiar, and see that there is no reason to be afraid. So that was one thing, but also for the developers, especially for the ones with more experience who also worked in the job already for quite some time, it was the same thing, just on the other side. So for us, I would say it helped definitely when I went into the team, because then, like, after, let's say, 3-4 months, the rest of the project was like, okay, cool. We also want an embedded tester. We also want to work like this. But before I spent, like, let's say 6 months explaining stuff, and it felt for me like a marathon without, I never reached the finish line. So yeah, take enough time. Don't rush, because if you miss to have the people with you, then yeah, I don't see that this will be a success. So better take the time, make a step back, and get the people with you. What do you consider as first steps people should do to improve agile testing? Talk to each other, talk to other roles, just be open, be interested in what other disciplines are doing. So it helped a lot for us, and for me personally, when I just went to developer, whether it was in the office at that time or just remotely saying, hey, can we just have, I don't know, 10 minutes and you show me what you're doing? And then in the end, that person was so happy that I was interested in their work that it ended up being like a walkthrough of a cool new feature for an hour or so. So yeah, that would be the first I recommend. And from there, start from there. It always depends where the people you're working with, where they are. Yeah, so get them where they are and then build your strategy from there. Did you use some workshop for the testers before you tried to transform them to Agile? Example, Agile developer from Scrum, Agile tester, knowledge for ISTQB. Yeah, not an official one. We did like, it's also always a budget thing, right? So we tried to design something ourselves, yeah? But basically, yeah, it was what's testing or what's quality assurance, and then we worked in Scrum teams and just bringing this together. Yes, we tried that, and it sometimes works. What did the testers outside the teams do? Very, very good question. Thanks for asking that. As said, there were a whole bunch of interfaces with surrounding systems. So our application, the relationship manager, they did actually trading for their clients. And it was a private bank, so you can guess there was a lot of money involved and a very high-risk application. So system integration, the whole end-to-end flow was super, super important. And within the agile teams, as our application was also quite big, we focused more on what the teams were building. They were all responsible for their own context in the application. So we focused in the agile teams on the things they were building and also the connection. So in all the agile teams was basically our application in itself. And tested against mocks mainly, and then testers outside of the teams, they focused really on that integration into the bank with the real interfaces and with the production-like test data. That was very important. We would love to give more responsibility for that to the teams, but we're working on it. It's also a matter of who's allowed to enter certain environments in the bank, who is allowed to see certain data. That was the issue there. Do you still have a test manager? Yes, but and I don't really like the word manager, but I know it's not what it used to be. So it's more someone who's, organizing or having like the big picture. Because as said, it's a huge application. We have a lot of dependencies. So it's good to have someone, he's called test manager, but, orchestrating all that things. Also checking with other applications, releases, dependencies, that stuff. So yes, we do. How do you deal with regression testing? A lot of it is automated, but still, coming back to what I said at the beginning, we still have, for me, too many manual regression tests. People don't like to delete stuff. I love to delete stuff. So we focus. We try to automate as much as it makes sense, and focusing on really system integration. So we have Tosca there in place, which works pretty good for us. Agile teams require skilled testers. Yes. How do you develop your testers on the fly? Are they all open to improving themselves? And what if not? That's a nice one. We try to, when recruiting people, we try really to find out as good as we can, are they willing to improve themselves? Are they willing to change, how do they deal with when there is no job description? So when they come into a team and they need to find out or, just be the quality voice or so. So we really look for, people who can organize themselves, who can define their role themselves. To be honest, sometimes it doesn't work, but we made very good experience with coaching, with training people, with changing teams. That also works. Sometimes it's just not working in a certain team, and when you change it, then surprisingly it works. So, How many testers are in your team. So I understand this as in the project. So we had 6 teams. So 6 were embedded, and then we had another 4 outside of the team. So 10. And the test manager, the new one. We had a new one who was open for that idea. What tools do you use in your team for automation? Yeah, so for end-to-end, we were using Tosca. And then what in the teams, they used a lot, like for the front end Selenium. Some used Cypress because they preferred it more. So we let them freedom to choose. It's just, yeah, you need to, some tools you need to check whether you are allowed to use it in the bank or on which environment you are allowed to use it. But we try to give the teams as much freedom as possible there so they can really work most efficiently. Thank you.